Face it, there is so much misinformation coming from both the right and the left on the internet, in media, in social media right now. I've had Shakis on before. He is a media literacy specialist, and it is so important to know about this stuff, how it works, how to defend yourself against it. We talk about media literacy as self defense a lot when we get together. So I wanted to go through this. I wanted to get it out quick before the election is over. So I hope you listen to this. Let's dig in.
Welcome to the Warrior Mindset Podcast. We're your guide as you make your way through life, getting better 1% every day. We believe that life is lived and true victory won through adversity. Nothing easy is ever worth it. We believe in the warrior ethos and support those that choose to walk that path.
Yeah, I wanted you here, man. You are the media literacy. I always get that wrong.
That's it.
Okay, cool. You are the media literacy guru in my mind. Honestly,
I like to think that I am too.
you are. And I always think, what would Shakis say about this when I listen
That's
to
good.
something?
That's what I want to lead people with. Hopefully, I can translate that over to my company. That'd be even better. Yeah. What will OTR say about this? Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go through. I just wanted to talk about it again because we lost it. But there's a lot going on.
Wow. I knew it would get wilder, right? As you go to the election,
There's some
every day is
wild
getting
shit
wilder
happening.
and wilder and wilder.
And you know, we've got Trump's been on Rogan.
Yes.
Since we recorded and now, which is a whole nother thing. I don't know. Have you had a chance to listen to it yet?
Not at all. I'm not going to listen to it.
Probably no point. But you know, and after listening to it, I would say that if Kamala is on there as well, it's probably no point in listening to it.
Yeah,
because he just didn't. Because I've listened to Trump on Lex Friedman. I don't know if you ever listened to Lex Friedman. He's in the top 20 or something, and there's another comedian that he was on. He's like in the top 10 or something. It's the same thing. It's just like, you know.
I think that
you're not gonna ask these people any hard questions or whatever. You know.
No, I think that
just very.
I don't mean to single out. In fact, I don't have to single out Trump.
Yeah.
There are some people in everybody's life that you have to understand if you're going to protect your sanity and your ability to function in the world, that you have to understand that they have an agenda. And that agenda,
they're politicians. They literally have an agenda.
Well, I mean, some people in your life, you know, they're not politicians, but they have an agenda, you know?
Yeah.
And specifically, and let me be clear, because everyone has an agenda.
Yes.
But some people's agenda is solely about self.
Okay.
Right? Whatever I enter into, whatever I'm about to do, it's all for the benefit of me. And I think I don't mean to use this word lightly, but I think any sense will tell you to beware of those people. And that's how I feel about someone like him. But I think that goes with a lot of people in our lives. And I just think that's something people should practice regularly, is understanding that there are some people, regardless of what platform that they're on, they're there for one reason and one reason only. And that is for their own self-interest. They will use you. It's not a question of will they, it's when. They will take advantage of you. They will throw you under the bus. They do not care about you at all. They do not care about your platform. They do not care.
Yeah.
They have no, they don't have any, that button for them in their lives is shut off. And so I think it's really dangerous to feed those people.
Yeah.
I think you have to starve those people. And I think it's I think the media uses the excuse of being fair. And that excuse is what, if you do it, people will adopt it. because people take media seriously, because we encourage them to.
Yeah.
We encourage them to become followers of a podcast or a thing. We encourage them to become subscribers. We encourage them to listen to us and get engaged with us. And then there becomes a seriousness that you take where you even pull lessons like, hell, look at me talking about Jay Shetty lesson, right?
Right. You're selling them. Yeah.
Selling it, you know? And so I think there's a responsibility to that. And I think that it's irresponsible for me to check out anything that someone is on that I already know is only serving their self-interest. I remember this past weekend, and I'm gonna go ahead and talk about Trump now. I was trying to avoid it, but I can't help it because I saw the most glorious presidential campaign ad I've ever seen in my life. It came on during the Cincinnati Bengals game. It was a Trump ad. It was like 2 minutes long.
Yeah,
I know it's about
Trump campaign is hitting the masculine
TV. Yeah, the
masculine TV hard.
Oh, he's hitting the masculine TV. So it was it literally looked like an Apprentice ad.
Oh,
but
wow.
It was an ad for because it was the same type of font, same gold font with the bevel. You know what I'm talking about, as an artist designer with the sheen and shine on it. Like it was the same font. And I was like, wow, that's the Apprentice font. That was the first thing I noticed. Being in the creative world. And so, but what I found so remarkable was the ad was full of blatant lies. Like I'm talking about not even like, is that true? Not that kind of lie. I'm talking about the kind of lie where I go, Gene,
like,
is
obviously
I think that in my life, I've become the greatest martial artist of all time.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
That kind of lie. Like where you're like, come on. Yeah. You know, and the commercial is saying stuff like, we had the greatest economy of all time.
Right.
And in words, it was in bold words, greatest economy of all time.
Of all time.
You know, the fastest growing economy of all time. We limited the record number of immigrants coming to this country. I was like, the record number of immigrants coming to this country was like 1920. Like, relax. Come on, man. How did we all get here? Like, hey, come on. You know, but it was so like, and all I was thinking, I'm watching it and I'm like, yo, this is the baddest ass not giving a fuckest ad I've ever seen in my life. Cause he don't give a fuck. Like, cause I'm sure somebody said, hey man, none of this is true. Yeah. And he was like, it makes for good TV. And there were two icings on the cake for me. One was they used the Amber Rose clip.
Oh boy.
In the commercial, which I knew she was going to get used eventually. Right. She's black, she's young, she's hip. This is your fault, right? Because you know this is what he does. Yeah. And then the ad ends with a shot of him with the blood on his face from when he got shot.
Shit, really?
With his fist in the air, with the security around him. It freezes on that frame. Yo, I was like, yo!
He did it.
I said, this is the greatest advertisement I've ever seen in my life. And he clearly does not give a fuck. I said, somebody is in the editing booth going, hey man, you know, this is a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. This is all lies. He was like, who gives a fuck? Nobody gives a fuck if it's a lie. It's great TV. Doesn't. Now get that goddamn shot of me with the blood on my nose and put that shit on the end and let's fucking go. That's all I hear in my mind.
That's probably how it went down.
Dude, I was like, yo, this is like propaganda 101. It ain't even 102. I don't even know if it's 101. It's like propaganda 1. Like, this is like level 1 propaganda shit. And I'm thinking to myself, it's irresponsible that this is on TV. I don't give a fuck how much they pay.
100%.
It's work. Because I was thinking to myself, I remember when I was at Genesis Studios.
That's the networks taking money over being Americans.
Being responsible.
Yes.
I remember working at Genesis Studios and doing a lot of car commercials. And I remember when during the time I was there, the disclaimer on car commercials had to be bigger. It was in that time period where it was a federal mandate.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, where we had to go up on the font.
Right.
So I remember us having the TV station sending us back as was like, this font's too small, it has to be this size, federal mandate. And so we had to make the font bigger. And then the things that car dealers could say in commercials changed. Or if they made a statement like, this is the lowest deal, or we'll take any car. Like as soon as they say any car, we have to put this giant disclaimer on that said, yes, specifically this, right. And I was like, okay, if a car commercial can't do it,
yeah, why can't we do it on?
How in the fuck
during
does
NFL
the person
game
that's running for the president of the United States? I said, yo, that's irresponsible.
How are they not held responsible? Like who?
I don't understand.
In your
I
opinion,
do not understand.
In your opinion, as the media literacy guru that I call you, the greatest of all time, who's responsible in your opinion?
So the responsible always falls on the creator.
Okay.
Right? Because you have to think about it in terms of legal. Okay. So if you yell fire in the theater, it's not the theater's fault. It's your fault.
Yes.
Now it's also the theater's fault if the theater doesn't act upon you yelling fire, right? That becomes a secondary. Sure. It's no different than being in a coffee shop and someone says he's got a gun. Like now the coffee shop owner is responsible for making sure everybody's safe. Action. Right. Okay. You have to take action. But the first onus is going to be the highest degree of criminal penalty is going to be on the person that is the onus of the actor.
Yeah. And then it falls to the network.
And then it falls to Then it falls to them. So the first line of defense is the person that said, all right, let's send this to let's create it.
Let's roll it.
B, let's send it to TV stations.
Yeah.
Then the third conspirator would be the TV stations.
Right.
You know, the person that took the money to say, okay, we're going to run this ad.
They took the money.
Then next to that, after that, it's going to be whoever decided to actually put it on air. Right. Because those are two different departments. You got the department that took the money and said, give me the money. Sure. Then you have the department that and what happens in that, the reason why that is gray. Right. And this is very important to know. The reason why that space is gray is and specifically they, and I'm specifically talking about mainstream media, and I'm specifically talking about the same mainstream media. And when you're thinking about mainstream media nowadays, we have to think about that, including social media platforms, because these are also mainstream. Facebook is mainstream media now, right?
Yeah.
So mainstream media will hide under the rule of freedom of speech. Right? This is the same thing that happened in the case with Google and Facebook, where they were saying, well, we're not telling you which pizza shop to go to when you ask where's the closest pizza shop. We're just showing you all the pizza shops. Right. But once your algorithm starts pointing someone in the direction of a pizza shop, you've changed the game.
Yeah.
Now you're a part of it. So this goes back to that. So when we're talking about who is responsible, and then that ladder of responsibility, who's at the top, who's at the bottom, everyone has a role to play. And I believe, just like I believe with social media markets, that our institutions, I specifically mean government institutions, have to update the legal laws for how we communicate messages over media.
Yeah.
Podcasting, social media, mainstream media, all media now. And just like with marketing, right? Because this is a thing, car commercials are such a great example, because there came a point where even with marketing, someone had to come in and say, all right, this is a step too far. Right? No different than those advertising rules started coming about after, I want to say it was around 1940s or so, because prior to that specific time, somewhere around the 1940s, late 30s, was when, you could say things like, this soda cures cancer. They would call them, I forgot the name for these people that would sell items on their truck, and they'd be like, Coca-Cola cures gout. You know what I mean? Like, and it was a whole thing.
There's a term for them. You're right.
There's a term for those people. And then regulators had to come in and say, no, you can't. There's certain rules you have to abide by.
Right. Yeah. Smoking doesn't exercise your lungs.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so At every given stage of human technology advancement, we've had some institution that was created,
Yeah.
whether that was the AIA, whether that was the press when the first newspaper was created in London, and they had to create rules for press and rules for words. If this word is watch, then this is what watch means, and we all agree that this is what watch means. Like, institutions came in and created these standards, and that is what's needed now, because if that is allowed, which it has been allowed because of this gray area of this world of freedom of the press, then freedom of speech, sorry, not freedom of the press, freedom of speech, then someone has to say how far is too far.
Right.
No different than the yelling fire in a crowded theater. That used to be the line. But with the advent of social media, we've moved the line, because now people are yelling fire all the time.
Yes.
Straight and up, nobody's doing anything. And I think that it's the responsibility of institutions because of the danger. And we're witnessing the danger. Now, I woke up this morning, and after my stretch and everything, I was browsing on my phone while I was talking to my sister, and I saw a notification pop up about people burning ballot boxes.
I saw that too. Yeah.
And I said, how did we get there?
Yeah, it freaked me out.
How did we get there?
Yeah.
Where people are literally driving around and throwing,
it's crazy,
fire into ballot boxes to burn people's vote.
I learned from that.
How did we get there?
That the ballot box is not just a box; it has like a fire system in it.
Yeah.
That they only think they got lost like 3 ballots, and they've contacted those.
But that was just that one box.
There's been another one.
Yeah, there's been several of them.
But it's what the hell? We got to have a special ballot box that has like fire defense system. Like, what the fuck?
Because of and it is because of the irresponsibility of media and the media.
Feels like
and not
really out of control.
And it's everyone's hiding under. I remember this just this past week. Anderson Cooper had Charlamagne the God on. And they were talking about.
I saw some highlights from that. Yeah,
and Anderson was asking Charlamagne about whether or not Kamala should go on Joe Rogan, and he was like, "This is stupid for us to be talking about. Like, why are we talking about whether or not Kamala shouldn't we be talking about her policies or Donald Trump's policies or something like that?" Is what the point he was making, and that is the issue. And Anderson's point was he's trying to be fair, and I'm like, you're taking the fairness, that positioning, and stretching it. Right, because you're being irresponsible with fairness.
Right.
If I'm and this is again,
fairness doesn't mean I give you both a platform to tell lies.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I give you both a platform to tell lies, and this is why in our last conversation I was saying that we should bring back all of the old anchormen for the 6 months.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah, bring back Dan Rather.
Bring back Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw, Barbara Walters. They should run all of the news for the 6 months leading up to election, because what I'm about to say came from one of those older. I cannot remember the gentleman's name, but he's one of the old reporters from CBS, older guy, and he said this way back in 2015 when Trump was running the first time, and he was saying how he said that Donald Trump practices the dead cat theory. He was like, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. He's going to throw a dead cat. And the minute you see a dead cat, sense. It changes the whole conversation.
He's not wrong.
Now we're all going, wait a minute, was that just a dead cat? Right. And it completely has taken over the conversation. Now we're talking about the dead cat. And he was like, it's effective because no one expects for anybody to throw a dead cat in the conversation.
He's right.
But he was like, where the responsibility of the media lies is to say, all right, that's it.
Yeah, you're done.
We have to stop. You're done, because I can't have somebody throwing dead cats.
Yeah. Right.
That means you've taken it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so my positioning as a media literacy expert is, if the media and the government is going to be slow to put laws and regulations in place so that the media, the mainstream media, all of the platforms, whether you're talking about news, social media, podcasts, are not regulated, then we as American citizens, as global citizens, have to become media literate. We have to make sure that we can defend ourselves from the irresponsibility of those around us when it comes to the information we consume, because the information we consume, if it is incendiary, it can turn into danger and violence, and we're seeing it happen again.
100%.
It has overturned countries. It has overturned elections. It might overturn this election.
Yeah.
All because of misinformation.
Mhm.
And we are not equipped with the skills to look at information and ask ourselves those 5 or 6 simple questions when it comes to media we consume. And really, to be honest, the first 2 is all you need, is to be able to look at anything and go, who created this? Because who created the message is going to inform you of what they're trying to achieve
And why. Yeah.
and why. And then the second, after you get to who created it, then you have to ask yourself, was this created to gain profit or power? Was it trying to teach me something, or was it trying to influence me to buy something? Like what is going on here? And those simple things that human beings can practice, even if you don't are able to remember the 5 or 6 core concepts of media literacy, just practicing those 2, just practicing that first one, who created this message, is enough to make most people stop consuming or sharing anything. I just had a friend of mine just yesterday sent me this random video on Instagram about 5G and how 5G was supposedly from some documentary. I don't know. I couldn't even, the person that I'm looking at the handle of the Instagram, it's like New Angel 35 or something. The video doesn't have any names on it, docs on it. It's just all this with some computer talking about 5G at this level does this and this level does this. I ain't finished the video. I just stopped
the
it.
chemtrails, bro.
And I said, you got me with that.
Sorry.
I sent him a message that I said, hey man, I'm not sure where you found this video. However, I'm encouraging you to always ask yourself questions when you're seeing information.
That's a very polite way to put that.
Where it's from.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be helpful for both of us. I love you. Keep grinding. Peace. He was like, oh man, Shaquise, thank you, bro.
Made me think.
And
start doing it, man.
I think that's another practice that more people should use in the media literacy space, is treat the person you're engaging with as if they're a real person. I think what makes a lot of the vitriol on social media and I've even done it, I've even had a strong emotional reaction to somebody said, you fucking idiot. You know what I mean? I don't know this person.
You
would never do that in a bar.
You would never say the things you type.
Never. You would, if you were walking past a group of people on your left that were talking about, I don't know, Caitlin Clark, Angel
you
Reese,
would say that shit in person.
Chemtrails. You would never turn randomly at that table and be like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, you're the dumbest fucker I've ever seen. Yeah, you would never.
You would never do that. And so if you're going
because they would fuck you up.
Well, I don't even know. Yeah, but even more than that, you don't know these people.
They're strangers.
They're complete strangers. So why don't you communicate as if this person is a stranger?
Yeah.
How would you change your approach if it was a stranger handing you a flyer at a grocery store while you're on your way out and it's about 5G? What would you do?
Right.
You wouldn't turn around and lambast them for 20 minutes in the store.
Yeah. What do you do to the Jehovah's Witness to give you the little thing? Do you treat them like trash?
Thank you.
Or do you just say, no, thank you, and move on with your life? I mean, what do you do? It's this.
It's those same rules have to apply. And it is, and again, this is why media literacy is self-defense, because the social media platform function is not designed for you to engage as you would if you were.
Have you made that shirt yet, by the way?
We haven't, but we're in the process.
Are
We're
you?
literally in the process. We're redoing our website right now. It's gonna have a store on it. We got mugs with the media literacy self-defense on
I'll
it. We got
promote the shit
stickers, we
out of
got
that when
buttons, we
you get
got
that.
t-shirts coming. Yeah, we
Okay.
got the whole
All right.
line
Okay.
of media literacy and self-defense. So I can't wait. Literally, when they come out, you're my first stop because
Thank
we've
you.
been talking about it from day one.
It's-
I was even thinking about putting Gene C underneath
No,
it.
don't do that. Don't do that. That's all you.
But-
But that is
yeah.
the truth.
It's the truth, and it's just like any other defense.
Mhm.
We have to protect ourselves
100%.
from the irresponsibility of others, no different than we would with
Mhm.
stop signs, like we would with traffic lights, like we would with you have to be 18 before you come into the site, like you would with you have to be 18 before you can vote,
Yeah.
21 before you can drink, this age before you can buy cigarettes. Like all of these rules, you have to have a license before you can buy a gun.
Mhm.
Like this is the same. That
I think
people
so.
will be irresponsible. It's not a matter of freedom of speech. It's a matter of,
Yeah.
will there be irresponsible people? And we know that there will. So if there's going to be irresponsibility, there is a obligation and responsibility you have to the citizens and humans that have agreed to
Mhm.
live in that society.
Mhm.
There's an agreement that we make as society, and we have to take those agreements seriously.
It feels like we're so behind. I know the government's behind, but the government's behind in everything. But like, it feels like we're so behind
We are.
in the social media in particular. I mean, the
Mhm.
internet, but social media.
Yes.
Like here's an example of something that this concept of shadow banning. Sort
Okay.
of shifting gears a little bit, but
Sure.
have you followed any of this? Yeah, I'm sure you've seen people.
Yes, but what do you mean specifically?
So, for example, the latest one, I'm in the self-defense, martial arts sphere.
Yes.
I like to shoot guns and shit like that.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Me
So
too.
a lot of the stuff that I follow online,
Oh, it's coming for you.
but those
a gun and martial arts and a white man.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm about to fill
But-
your algorithm up with the worst.
that's the thing. I don't put that stuff necessarily on the internet, but the
Yeah,
people that
doesn't
do,
matter. Yeah, the people that
they
do
tend to fall on the let's say
on the
they
spectrum.
are right of center.
Yes.
Most of the more famous ones are always complaining about being shadow banned, meaning that if you go on Instagram right now, you can't find my profile.
Yes.
I'm being shadow banned. Like the most recent one is the Rogan Trump interview.
Mhm.
It was getting like, I'm going to quote it wrong, but I mean, let's just say it was like 1 million views an hour.
Mhm.
It's up to like 40 million views or something like that, which
Oh man, it's
is
crazy.
fucking nuts for a
Yeah.
podcast like on YouTube. You know what I
It
mean?
makes sense.
But his latest post,
Everybody wants to see a dead cat get thrown.
that's
Jimmy.
right, from 9 hours ago, there seems to be an issue where the Trump podcast is difficult, in quotes, to search for on YouTube. So I've uploaded it to X.
Mhm.
But I mean, I went to, and I was like, really? So I, incognito window, YouTube. I wrote Joe Rogan, and it was like Trump podcast.
Of
Like,
course.
is the first drop down. And I'm like,
Yeah.
scenes come to bullshit. but if I look through the comments, it's like censorship is a weapon of tyranny.
Yeah, man.
If he was bad as they say, they would let you watch it.
Mhm.
YouTube will issue an apology after the election.
Oh my god.
But it's like, bro, I don't think you're being shadow banned.
No, you're not being shadow banned. However, it's just like, let's just keep the same analogy of yelling fire in a crowded theater. If it did not happen, is irrelevant if everyone is telling you, or let's not even say everyone. If there's a large enough contingency of people saying
Yeah.
that someone yelled fire in a theater, you'll believe it if you weren't there.
Yeah, if you hear it enough.
And so your first instinct is to go, oh man, that's crazy. Because it's dead. Once again, the dead cat theory. Oh man, it's crazy. And so the minute you hear it again, now your response is tied to that emotional trigger, as opposed to it being tied to what I am fighting for us to be is more thoughtful in how we ingest information. So instead of our first response being, oh man, that's crazy, we should practice our first response being, who told you that?
Yeah.
Who was
Well,
yelling
so
fire in the
so
crowded theater?
this is
Where were they at? And who
bear
said
with
that?
me. Bear with me
Yes.
here with this one particular example. This
Sure.
is probably a conspiracy that falls to the left of center.
Yes.
but let's talk about that. So we're following the incentive structure.
Yes.
All right. So he puts out a podcast where he's interviewing Trump.
Mhm.
We all know that Rogan and Elon Musk are tight.
Yes.
We all know that Trump and Elon Musk are tight.
Yes.
We watched him, as Tim Waltz says, jumping around like a dumbass on stage. Not my words; those are Tim Waltz's words.
Oh, Waltz.
But he did look like a dumbass. So in the same quote, he says, "So I uploaded it to X."
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of like using one platform to market another platform
Mhm.
that arguably is struggling. X is struggling.
Yes.
I just saw that, and it's like, so you're using this. I'm being shadow banned to now market a video on a different platform.
Yes.
And that's literally what that is.
Yes. That goes back to what I was saying earlier about you have to be aware.
You got to look
of
at the
when
incentive
people
structure,
are
man.
using you. Like there are some people that are only designed or programmed to only look out for their self-interest.
Yeah.
And that always should be a red flag. And that's what I like going back to those old journalists, those Walter Mondales and Walter Cronkites and Walter Cronkite and Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather and all of these guys, Barbara Walters. We've all seen them shut down interviews once someone starts doing that thing.
They do, but do you think they were like that because they only had 3 channels?
No, I think that
they were like that for the
because
integrity of journalism.
They understood their job.
Right.
And that job comes with responsibility. And most of what we're seeing now, most of the issues that we're having aren't with journalists. Most of the issues we're having now are with self-made. I hate to use that word self-made.
Well,
but the self-proclaimed, rather I should say, journalists. So whether you and so this
yes,
the internet has democratized journalism. So now everyone can be a journalist. And only those that take the profession seriously and have been trained understand the responsibility. No one else does. You just got a podcast, Facebook, so you have a following. I do not think Joe Rogan went to school to get a degree in journalism.
Well, he's not a journalist. It wasn't even an interview, right? So that's the thing. Everybody keeps talking about this Trump thing as an interview. I mean, he doesn't do interviews. First of all, and this is just my opinion talking.
Yes.
You shoot me down if I'm not.
Sure.
He doesn't do interviews. He does conversations just like we're having right now. I'm not interviewing you.
Yes.
Right. But I don't think people know the difference.
Exactly.
Like your average, my mom doesn't know the difference.
No, because what does it look like?
I mean, it looks like a damn interview.
It looks like an interview to me. It's one person talking to another person. They got 2 microphones. I've been watching TV long enough. That's an interview.
I mean, he clearly doesn't look like Barbara Walters, but I mean, it might as well be, Yeah. And I think modern journalism as well on these 24-hour networks.
Oh, for sure.
They do blur the lines between podcasts.
For sure. Intentionally. And my point wasn't that they don't. My point was the majority of the noise we're talking about is not coming from journalism. However, journalism, which is why I'm proposing that we bring back all the old school cats to run media during election time, is because journalism has dipped into the muddy area. In fact, all of the major networks now, we never hear from an expert. We always hear from a panel of experts.
Right.
And it's never about an actual issue. It's about everybody's opinion on the issue, which is the same information you would hear on a podcast.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So
that's where it gets all gray and murky. And
we're doing the weave here.
Yeah, we're doing the weave. Yeah, fact.
I don't know if you've heard of this guy. There's a YouTuber. He used to work. I'm not even going to say it because I'm not going to remember the exact network. Let's just say equally, I think he worked for CNN or Fox. I don't fucking know. But his name is Johnny Harris. Have you heard of this guy? So he was a reporter, whatever, journalist, and he left and they started his own YouTube channel.
Okay.
And, he knows how to play the game. So, his YouTube channel is huge or whatever. But what this dude will do, according to people, and you can watch it and form your own opinion,
Sure.
is he will sort of fudge the facts of history,
Sure.
right? Like leave things out,
Sure.
or
Or add things in.
or add things that whatever. And like he's caught a lot of flack for that.
Sure.
He's just one example. Trump himself did it in the Rogan podcast where he was talking about I forget what the fuck it was. He asked him like, what was it like the first day you were in office or whatever, and he did the weave and was talking about the Lincoln Room or something like that, and he was talking about history, how Lincoln and his wife had melancholy because they'd lost their son Tad or whatever. And that's why they had. But if you look this shit up, Tad died after Lincoln was killed.
Yes.
And it's like, huh? I mean,
yeah.
So here's a former president just spouting bullshit.
Yes.
And nobody
nobody stops it. There's no, and again, and
I'm not saying Rogan should have known that, because I didn't know that until I'd seen someone point it out. But
and what I'm saying is,
shouldn't the editor have called that shit? Like,
what I'm saying is, should Rogan be allowed?
Yeah.
That is the conversation I think people are not willing to have.
He's the #1 podcast.
Should you be
on
allowed?
Planet Earth.
Like, if you are going to, if that is your MO, if your stance is, I'm not an expert in those things, I don't know, then there's where a parameter should be for Joe Rogan, just like a parameter should be for Drink Champs, just like a parameter should be for Jay Shetty. Like, and what happens is, because of the gray area of freedom of speech, there becomes this gray area that Joe Rogan can play on and be like, kind of similar to what you said earlier, I'm not interviewing him. This is just a conversation.
Right.
Now you got this gray area where it is the creation of confusion. You've created confusion.
Well, people are going to think that Lincoln lost his son while he was in office.
Yes. And you have, which is why newspapers, even the very first printed mass media newspaper, which was London, I believe, the London Gazette. I can't remember what it was called before the name was changed to the London Gazette. They had to have, the reason why that came about was because of the use of pamphlets and tracts after the printing press made pamphlets and tracts so popular that anybody with the printing press could print anything they wanted to say about anyone. So they needed some form of communication that people could trust. So they created an institution that created this newspaper that you could come to for the actual truth, that had been vetted by a board of people that they put in charge of that thing. Now, that type of system, I'm saying, as a media literacy advocate and educator, is necessary in an environment where no one is going to regulate a Joe Rogan. Because if you aren't going to regulate Joe Rogan, if you aren't going to say he can't interview presidents, because presidents are going to take advantage of the fact that he has a large platform, which is what Donald Trump will do, which is the same thing any selfish-minded person would do that goes on a Rogan podcast.
Right.
Because they're there because they know you have 40 million subscribers. So I'm trying to get
Of course
my
he wants
agenda.
to be on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if we're not going to regulate that space, then we have to train people to regulate information. I think it's a necessity. And I think it's something that I know that one of the things we're working on right now is because we do workshops and we do conferences and we do curriculum and we do professional development for teachers, but most of the things that we do are paid for. So we're working with Richland Library right now to see if we can launch free modules that people can use or have access to, so they can practice. Because one of the things about media literacy in that space that I'm really unhappy with is we haven't engaged people in a way where they can activate it, where they can use it. We've only talked about it in like this kind of esoterical, you have to be a critical thinker thing. Well, what does that mean? How do I put that into practice when it's just me and my phone on the toilet?
How do you teach someone to be a critical thinker?
Yes. How do you help people put that into practice? So so when they pick up their phone and their device, they're putting this thing into practice. And so that is one of the things that we're working on Richland Library now, to figure out, how can we develop some type of module or tool that people have access to for free, that they don't have to pay for, rapport that can be ubiquitous, they can access at any time. And the beauty of having it somewhere at the library, and I'm really praying that this goes well, is now you have someone that can also be a guide. So if you are in a situation where you do have access to the module, but you still have some questions, or you're not quite sure how this thing works, or can someone put this in practice for you in the real world, now you have Richland Library folks there that
That's
have been
cool.
trained by us,
Yeah.
that are able to
That you can
help you
talk to.
walk through, that you can talk to, that can
Yeah.
walk through it with you. And I think that my hope, and this is the same thing I told the library, my hope is that this can be a model we can launch, because I
Cool.
think if the media is not going to do it, then let's launch this. Let's try to launch this at libraries all
Yeah,
over the
at least
US.
start somewhere.
Now people have a free place they can access this information in a module, in a tangible, tactical way that they can put into practice, as opposed to just some kind of esoteric thing that people say in interviews, and people don't, you go back to your phone on your toilet and you don't, you're saying that, the interview is shadow banned, without
whatever you're thinking.
whatever you're thinking.
Well,
And it's
quick
dangerous.
shout out to Sean Rayford. We mentioned him last time. I want to make
Yeah.
sure we mention his name here again.
Sure.
I know he's like currently something residence at the library or something.
Artist in residence.
Yeah, artist
or entrepreneur in residence.
I don't know which one it was, but
yeah.
I'll try to remember to link to him too. I love his Facebook. He's one of the last true journalists, in my opinion, in the Midlands. He goes all over the place.
Photojournalist for sure.
But just following him on Facebook during the Hurricane Helene, like in all the bullshit we talked. I think we went into more in depth there than we did with Rogan this time. But all the stuff that happened there, particularly the FEMA, where FEMA was doing their FEMA thing, and then people were saying FEMA's trying to take stuff.
Yes.
And so then which was a lie. And then people were lying about armed militia hunting FEMA, which was another lie. But as a result, the government pulled FEMA out of certain areas for safety. So people were not. So the lie that begot a lie was actually causing people to not get support that they needed.
Yes.
Which then also turns into people not requesting the funds that they're due.
Yes.
They paid the taxes and should get your money. I mean, so people weren't even doing that because they're like, oh, fuck them. They're not going to whatever.
Yeah.
So all that bullshit. But his posts were like straight up showing.
Whose post?
Sean's.
Oh, yeah.
His pictures and posts and stuff. He was just like fact. And I'm like, fuck, that's like not happening,
Yes. Yes. Shout out to Sean. He takes photojournalism very seriously.
He does.
He takes truth and being unbiased very seriously. It's one of the things
that's the hard
part.
Part.
That is it, and what makes it tricky, and this is important for people to understand, what makes it tricky is access and speed. The beauty and the ugliness of particularly social media, but the internet as a whole, is our ability to access it freely and our ability to have access to so much information at one time. And very few people that are not trained will use it like Sean will.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Sean's whole space that he exists in is, let me make sure I'm slowing down to give people the information they need.
Yeah, he's very accurate.
That is not a place that is a Facebook or a TikTok or Instagram, particularly TikTok, is not kind to that type of practice. It's not designed for it. Those spaces are designed for constant speed of information coming at you every time your thumb scrolls, right? And so you have to give a shout out to Sean. I think you have to talk about these difference, because I think that's what people will say. Well, what's the difference between what Sean Rayford is doing and what my cousin is doing, right? The difference is he's taking the time to make sure the information that he is giving you is not only factual, but doesn't have it's not colored by his opinion.
That's right. And he also makes time to expose the camera right, so the pictures look good.
Yeah, but this is also important. He's also understanding that if he's not responsible, it can have dangerous implications to the people that are receiving the information.
For sure.
And that's something that your cousin or someone that's on TikTok or
Yeah, I don't care.
constantly thinking about the speed of content or how much content they can put on in one day, or how much they can share, or, oh, I just want to share this. How many times have you heard that from someone where someone will say, or I'll look at someone's posted and they'll say, I just think it's information people need to know, or I just think it needs to be shared, or, you know, I just think this is crazy, right?
Whether it's real or not. Yeah.
Whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between someone who's taking journalism seriously and someone who isn't, is their allegiance to responsibility. And that's extremely key.
For real. Well, I had also the last time we were talking here, I don't bring it in here for this one, but there's a book I brought in called Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday, and I will definitely link that up. If you haven't read it, I'll send you a copy.
I have not read it yet. I can't wait to read it.
But he worked for American Apparel, early 2000s or whatever. There's a bunch of that's a whole different podcast. We want to talk about the rise and fall of American Apparel, but he was the chief marketing officer or whatever. So he used viral marketing and media manipulation to get them sort of guerrilla marketing, you know, stuff. And so the whole book is about, like, you know, it's literally, trust me, I'm lying. Like, it's literally about how to do that.
Yes.
And he actually feels bad about writing the book because he's like, I created a manual for people to do what they're doing, which is hurting everyone. But if you look at it from the other side, which is to understand how it works, one of the things is incentive structures. And it's a whole chapter highlights how bloggers and journalists prioritize sensationalism for clicks and ad revenue.
Yes.
So if we remember that, I mean, it's, you know, back in the early 2000s, because he's talking about bloggers and journalists. We're talking about, what do they call it? Clickbaiting, clickbait titles or whatever.
Yes.
But now it's happening on that's like a macro level. Now it's happening on a micro level. Like, you're talking about your cousin, not your cousin, but
right.
Your cousin in quotes.
Yes.
Is posting this shit on TikTok to get more clicks and more likes and to get more views.
Because it's popular right now.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about this before. You know, if there's a popular issue, there are
people will mine that thing.
That will mine the popular issues, the popular tags, and make sure they have information. Even if their podcast or media platform is about Thor.
Yeah.
If they see that what's trending right now is chemtrails, they're going to have something about chemtrails. So
Thor creates chemtrails when he flies.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Is it possible that Thor could create chemtrails? You know, like they'll to get in the mix. And that
you can use AI to help you develop 5 different titles that you can test.
Absolutely. And that's what makes the space dangerous. I mean, I don't know of another way to say it other than dangerous. And I think that those practices, which is one of the reasons why we have developed the whole, we call it screen language, this idea of taking those 5 core concepts, 6 that we use of media literacy, and combining it with how we communicate a message using a screen. What wide shot means, what a close-up means, what a medium shot means. We combine those two to create this term that we call screen language, which is the understanding of how these 2 things are being used together to communicate a message to you. And it's a very that's a part of the module that we're trying to develop to launch to the public, because those 2 things are being used simultaneously to create media messages based a lot on the fact that most people don't know the difference.
Sure.
And that is essentially what marketing is.
Yeah.
Right. Marketing is not advertising. Marketing is understanding what are the emotional human characteristics that I can tap into to get you to buy or believe my position. That's what marketing is. And so we use marketing to build brand loyalty. We use marketing to build brand identity. We make sure that it is memorable, it is short, it is effective, it connects with you emotionally, which makes you loyal to a brand or to an entity.
Isn't that a weird thing?
Yeah, it's very weird. It's not human. And that design, that marketing design, has made its way onto the internet, into social media. And so how does
Right.
the average human being protect themselves
Well, you see,
from clickbait, from this? Because it's
yeah,
marketing. I understand what's popular that human beings are into right now. I understand how to get their attention based on their emotional connection
mhm.
to a position, point, or topic. And how can I use that to my advantage?
You see people a lot on social media talking about their brand.
Yes.
I got to work on my brand or
Yeah.
whatever.
So it is.
It's
That's
kind
what
of
they're talking about. Talking about marketing.
what are some of the most we're talking about let's talk about platforms for a minute, specific ones, but what are some of the most egregious ones? I mean,
As far as like social media
yeah, like
platforms,
which platforms in your opinion have the most, I guess, most highest count? I don't know how you quantify it
well, I
of
think
like
they're
egregious issues.
first. Let me say that they're all egregious.
Okay.
Yeah, because they all
But
fall
they're
within the
different flavors
same.
of egregious.
That's true, and that is mainly because of the audience that's on the platform,
Okay.
right? So at an Instagram or Facebook, you're gonna
Yeah.
have a higher percentage of a swath of a country, right? Because more people in America are using Facebook
Yeah.
than say Truth Social. Most people
Or-
are
Is
more
anyone
people
using
using
that? Yeah.
Instagram than using, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you also have that um the demographic, the population demographic is important to understand. So you're
Yeah.
going to have more nuance in a place where you have more people. No different than you're going to get more Bruno Mars. More people are going to go to a Bruno Mars concert in Atlanta than Columbia, South Carolina, because Atlanta has 5 million people downtown downtown Atlanta proper. Columbia has like 140,000 people
Hmm.
downtown Columbia proper, right? So
Yeah. Okay.
there's literally gonna be more Bruno Mars fans in
Yeah.
a population of 5,000 than
Right.
130,000, right?
They say like Facebook and Instagram has more older users.
It does. It does have more older users, but it
Yeah.
just has more users, period.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. That's true.
And then second to that would be Instagram. Second to Insta will be TikTok. And
Yeah.
then you go to Snapchat, and then you go down the line. So who has the worst is, I don't know if that, because then you have to look at it as far as concentration.
Hmm.
Right. And then if you're talking about concentration, that's none of those, they're not going to be none of the major four. They're all going to be the smaller ones that we don't really. That's why I use True Social as an example,
Yeah.
because those are going to be it's going to be more concentrated danger, but it's a smaller population. And it does not harm as much as a Facebook or a Instagram does.
Yeah.
However, your Facebook and Instagram can cause more harm, right? It's the difference between having a National Enquirer and having a New York Times. Like, we've done a good job of establishing a place in society for the National Enquirer. So you're buying the Enquirer, right? So you're buying True Social when you go there. You're getting a concentration of men in Mars, right? Or aliens in pajamas that are dating Paula Abdul, right?
Right.
So you're expecting that when you go to True Social.
Right.
What happens is when National Enquirer stuff ends up in the New York Times, or in our case, when True Social stuff ends up on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's where it starts getting
It's
weird,
confusing
because the population and considering that there's no institution there that's saying, no, this is the Enquirer, this is the Times. It's all gray. And so when that information from the quote unquote National Enquirer gets up to Facebook and Instagram, it goes to many, many more people, millions of people. And now those people don't have it's not coming in saying, hey, this is from the Enquirer. It's coming in saying, hey, look at this. This is wild. Just like a buddy of mine sent me the 5G thing yesterday.
Yeah.
And so it's a really complicated system that has simple marketing rules that companies, no different than with marketing and Nike, companies are taking advantage of. And it's really and so are politicians. They're taking advantage of it. And that's not to say that the Kamala Harris Waltz campaign isn't taking advantage of some of those platforms as well. There's a reason why Kamala is going to go on the Breakfast Club, do something. I mean, it's the same. The methodology is the same. What's not the same is the danger.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think that's a point that people are not bringing up enough between the difference in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And I'm not a politician. I'm not a political person. I don't give a fuck if you're in the Republican or Democrat, because I ain't neither. However, there is one of these two parties that is actively creating mass disinformation irresponsibly.
100%.
And I don't think that difference, I think people keep trying to say it's apples to apples. It's not apples to apples. Now, does that mean that the Democratic Party is not doing it? No, hell no. They're doing it too.
Right. Well, they've been doing that shit since the 60s, man.
But there's a degree, just like we were talking earlier with criminal. There's a degree that the person that shot the gun is going to get a different time. He's going to get a different sentence than the person that drove the car.
Right.
It doesn't mean that the person that drove the car isn't guilty. They're just as they are guilty, but they're not as guilty as a person that fired the gun.
Right.
And that narrative is not being placed in the lap of the Republican Party enough. Because the reason why people are burning ballot boxes in America right now is because of the people in the Republican Party.
Right. They don't believe elections work.
Taking advantage of these marketing tools to connect to people emotionally, to get them to believe an idea like the election was rigged. Mm-hmm. You can't trust ballots. You can't trust boxes. You can't trust election commission. And this is what happens as a result. As a result of incendiary language and misinformation and disinformation, you get people emotionally charged. They make emotionally charged decisions. And no different than Pizzagate, when the guy drove from Florida to DC to shoot up a pizza place.
That's right.
Because he believed. And just like I told you on the last time we talked, it's just like when someone is folding a towel. They believe the way that they fold that towel is right. And I don't care how many times you tell them there's another way to fold that towel, honey. Hey, baby, why don't we fold it this way? Doesn't matter. They're going to go behind you
and
refold it because they believe that this way is the right way. And once you have somebody over into the belief column, which the Republicans have consistently done irresponsibly since they have decided to create a 24 news channel for themselves.
Yeah.
24-hour news channel for themselves. They have not regulated that space appropriately. And it has created a very dangerous place for this country. And many people have created these dangerous, but I mean, it's no different than, I'm not saying Fox News is the same as the Russia, was it, I think Channel 5 or whatever it is, the platform is in Russia. But the function is the same. Is the function of that channel, just like there's a news channel like this in India, there's a news channel like it in Brazil.
Hell, Canada's got one. Yeah.
Canada's got one too, that the whole function is propaganda.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous.
Yeah, the government's gonna
and it's irresponsible
do their thing.
And it's even worse when you have free social media platforms that anyone can use that can pull any of that information. And because if you notice, shadow banning on social media, then you'll see shadow banning on Fox News. It'll be the same, you know, because they are taking advantage of the same things that the podcaster is taking advantage of. What's in the algorithm that's popular right now?
Yeah.
What can we use to get more viewers on our platform, so that we can get more viewers, which ultimately leads to more advertising, which ultimately leads to more dollars. And so
it's super dangerous. Like, one of the examples I pulled up to make sure we talked was this post on Wired about Russian propaganda unit appears to be behind spread of false Tim Walz sexual abuse claims. Mm-hmm. So when Tim Walz was first picked by Harris, like immediately some shit came out that he was sexual abuse in high school as a coach or whatever.
Okay.
Turns out, I mean, this is Wired, take it for what it's worth, but that it's Russian propaganda.
Sure.
So that is a bad actor outside of our country.
Yes.
That we don't know what, I mean, you can make some assumptions because it's Russia, but we don't know what their goal is other than destabilization.
Right.
That's so this goes beyond whether you're right or left. I mean, this is red, white, and blue, man. I mean, this is Russia, bro.
Well, it used to be, not anymore. If you look at Particularly when you're in those right-wing spaces, they're kind to Russia now.
Yeah, they
It
are.
used
Yeah,
to
it's pretty weird.
be, this is America, bro. Not
It's
anymore.
pretty weird.
It's like, I don't know. But again, that is more of that irresponsibility of people.
Yeah.
Because here, what will happen in a case like that, right? Like the Russia case, like us saying that that clear line between America and America good, Russia bad,
Yeah.
which is how it used to be. Now, what
It's
you
the way it
find in
should
a
be,
lot of right,
goddammit.
a lot of right wing circles is America good, Russia okay. Right?
Yeah.
And that is really inspired by a lot of the disinformation language about the Democratic Party. Because, and I'm saying that specifically because people have in the Democratic Party have used the Russia bad, America good argument, but they're on the wrong team.
Right.
So if they're on the wrong team, how could what they be saying be right? It must be that Russia's okay.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, I get it.
How this works. And again, that is the, for lack of a better, I'm just keeping it plain, the Republican Party taking advantage of that algorithm by saying, oh, how can we use that to our advantage? Because instead of saying, hey, there's this clip of John McCain that I love that was circulating for a while, about a year ago again, where he was at a town hall at a rally, and this lady stood up and said something about President Obama and that I don't trust him because he's some kind of animal. He goes, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
No, he's a fine young man. Yeah. We disagree on the issues.
We don't say stuff like that
we
here.
do not say stuff like that.
I remember that.
Somebody else stood up, said something similar. He goes, so no. I know him personally. He's a great guy. You know, we disagree on the issues. That is not happening anymore. Yeah. And that is a responsibility that unfortunately we see more of only on the side of the Democratic Party. I'm not saying that because I'm a Democrat, because I am not. I'm only saying that because that is the reality that we're in. Even right now, with the whole thing about the Puerto Rican, the comedian that said all the jokes about Puerto Rico. What are you seeing today? Nothing but excuses.
Tony
He's
Hinchcliffe,
a comedian. People can't take a joke.
They're looking at who verified this before he went on, or who vetted this.
But everything on the Republican side is taking it lightly. There's no John McCain coming in and saying, dude, you were wrong. Yeah. You went too far.
Yeah, you're fired.
That's not the stance. Yeah. The stance is just, oh, America's become so soft. You can't take a joke. Oh, look at these softies. Right. And that's what the Democratic Party has done. It's turned you all into softies.
That's the last thing I wanted to get in.
Yeah, that's right. They're a bunch of softies. Can't take a fucking joke, you softy.
It feels good.
But it's dangerous.
Mm-hmm. That's the last thing I wanted to ask you, because we got into it a little bit last time. You sent me Abby Richards' work.
Yes, and Abby Richards.
I mean, I've gone on a deep dive of her Instagram.
She's so awesome.
Big fan. The latest one you sent me was awesome. But in your own words, or you can steal hers or whatever, how does that happen? How does someone get
radicalized?
I was searching for a word other than that, but that's a really good one. How does that happen nowadays? I mean, even back in the day, I mean, we had
radicalization is all tied up in emotion, right?
Yeah.
The way that you get someone radicalized is you use their emotional state to your advantage. This is no different really than the same system. You probably have seen guys or girls that have dated guys or girls, and you know that guy is bad for that girl because that guy is manipulating that girl.
Mm-hmm.
And you see your friend constantly make excuses for this guy that is manipulating them. But that guy is using that person's own emotional state to convince them that they're good. Whether that person has lost a loved one, whether that person has self-esteem issues, whether that person has issues about money, issues about whether or not they're loved. They tap into those and get you emotionally connected to them. This radicalization system happens the same way, because there are groups of people that are preying on certain people in society that are in certain emotional states, and they use that emotional state to their advantage. So the first step of radicalization, you'll see this more clearly on Abby has a whole chart about this.
Yeah, she's got a whole
And
Venn
the
diagram.
first start is when you introduce people that are in a vulnerable emotional state to things that have happened that they aren't aware of. Because in the first place they go is, how come I was never told? Then the next step to that is, well, what else don't I know? So once you get them to what else don't I know, and you end up getting them in a space where they are untrustworthy of information, now you get them to the next level. Is there's information that y'all don't have access to, that even though it could be untrustworthy, speaks to the reasons why I'm in the state that I'm in, that you should be aware of. And then what takes that person to the next level, which is usually the level of radicalization, is when those people push back and go, dude, why are you? And the response to why are you is no different than that response that you'll have with your friend that's a girl or a guy when you confront them about this person that they're with and they get angry with you. Why are you interfering in my relationship? You don't love me. You don't care about me. And you're like, what? I'm just this guy's.
I'm telling you, that's why. Yeah.
And then it goes. Yeah. Next thing you know, you don't hear from this person anymore. They're going off in their own space. That's the radicalization space. It's the same thing. It's a very emotional connection. And this is why I'm such a major advocate for regulation and institutional regulation in the social media space, because this is happening every day. And it was a tactic that we only, it was cool when those tactics were only used by Hamas, or when those tactics were only used by, terrorist organizations. These are the same tactics that they use. Same exact tactics. But now it's happening here with just your, I was just talking to somebody the other day. It was like, my brother's been radicalized. And I was like, had we done the right thing 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when we saw this happening with terrorist organizations in the Middle East, and had we not treated it like, oh, it's just happening over there, our family would never get radicalized over here. It's the same exact tactics now. And it's more pervasive because of the access and frequency of information that is not being regulated, and we don't have a defense against it.
Well, that scares the shit out of me. Thank you.
Well, there's a solution.
Thank you for the 21st century nightmare.
I think that we, I know it sounds corny. However, I think, to end this on a lighter note, I think we should take more lessons from Marvel movies. You got to stay vigilant.
Okay.
You gotta stay hopeful. But you got to do something. You got to make sure that you are active in the spaces to say, this is not true. This is true.
It's
Who
crazy.
sent you that? Why did they send you that? It's no different than Captain America's position on Thanos. Like it's very similar, because it's easy to see how Thanos radicalized people.
Yeah, he did.
Easy to see. But you got to have somebody like Captain America that says to Iron Man, well, what if we died? And we'll do that together too.
Yeah.
That's how you got to be vigilant.
That's right.
Thank you, Cap.
It is amazing how the things you're saying are the same things I tell people when I'm teaching them physical self-defense. It's the same.
Give me one quick example.
The same message. Being vigilant, paying attention. Like, get your head out of your phone. I mean, how many times do you drive by campus here and you're like, I could run over like 5 people. They wouldn't even know I was coming.
I'm going to hit this kid.
My son, who's a wonderful young man, sometimes we talk about this stuff. And he said the other day, he said, if I were a criminal, I could make a lot of money on campus just by robbing people, not paying attention. I was like, dude, but that alone, just being vigilant, that's like, not hard to do.
It's not hard to do.
It really isn't hard to do.
And at the same time, this as a martial artist, it requires training.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Well,
you got work to do, man. Keep training them.
Thank you too.
I will.
Thank you for your work. I look forward to the
Thank you for having
Media Literacy of Self-Defense t-shirt.
I can't wait. I'm super looking forward to it. We already got a design. We already have a mock-up. We just got to get.
Hell yeah.
We're working on the redesign of the website now. Once that's up, we got the store.
That's
up,
cool.
That's the next thing.
So, if you need help with it, I'm here.
I will definitely let you know. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, sir.